St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and now I'm back to the third segment of my program. Now, we want to deal with the banking situation. For the last couple of years, the Republic Bank of Trinidad and Tobago has made an effort to get controlling interests of the Bank of St. Lucia. One can understand about sovereignty and that type of business. But today, with what is going on, it is important that the government consider seriously the application by the Republic Bank of Trinidad and Tobago to play a more prominent role within the Bank of St. Lucia. For the simple reason that Trinidad and Tobago has a surplus of funds at their disposal. They have a number of investors who are willing to come to St. Lucia. And on that score, if we can assist, or should I say, not only assist, but work together with the Trinidadians to come to St. Lucia with their banking facilities, it's going to be a completely new ball game. Because right now, most St. Lucians cannot get loans from any of the banks in St. Lucia for more reasons than one. The banks have gone through a difficult period where they have had many write-offs. Now, this cannot continue because unless money is being pushed into the market and being made available to business people, stagnation will continue at an alarming rate. Yesterday, for instance, I was at a particular bank and met a very good friend with a retail store who started complaining about the situation because of the nature of her business. And in the process, the lady broke down in total tears. She became so emotional because she simply could not contain herself because of what is going on to her business. And I know the individual very well because this lady has worked exceptionally hard and ran a very good business. Now, the whole situation concerning the the Republic Bank is very simple. They want to come in and set all the records straight as to the direction St. Lucia should be heading. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that because these are CARICOM partners, you know. We have to understand that difficult times have been around and that is the only way forward. Now, another problem which hinges on the banking situation is the question of borrowing money. I understand very clearly that one has to deal with the infrastructure of the island, but how many St. Lucians know that to lay down 1 mile of road is $3.8 million? Now, no government in the region can afford to lay down roads because the borrowing which they have to do that will cripple the economy. You cannot do that. It just cannot be done. Only day before yesterday, it was on the British news where the British government need to address the infrastructure in Britain. What did they do? They liaised with China, the government of China, who have excessive funds, and they now made $1.5 billion available to the British government to take care and finance all the infrastructural works on their books at this moment. How is it going to be paid? It is not coming in as a loan. It is coming in, they are coming in as investors. And what did Parliament do? They put a certain amount of tolls on the road, and they also put a percentage on the gas, the fuel being used to deal with that. And they have worked it out after so many years it will be paid for, and then of course that the roads go back to government. Some 8 years ago, or no, sorry, more than that, maybe 12, 13 years ago, I was talking to Mr. Patterson, who was then Prime Minister of Jamaica, and one had to fly from Montego Bay to Kingston. And I said to the Prime Minister once, that doesn't make sense. Why can't we, the government, put a road? And he indicated to me, or highlighted, of the cost. And I said to him at the time, you know, Mr. Patterson, have you ever thought of tolls? And he said, yes, we have thought about it. And the conversation ended. And what happened 4 years ago? A French company went into Jamaica, spent $800 million US on a road from Montego Bay to Kingston. And for the first 6 months or so, it was not being well used. But afterwards, when people saw the value of it, and within 6 to 7 years, the amount of money collected, the loan would have been paid off sometime like 30 to 40% before the expiry date. And the question was posed, should they build more roads or should they pay off the loan quicker? And the Jamaican government made the right decision, build more roads. And if one goes to Jamaica today and see the network, okay? Now here in St. Lucia, I've said the same thing repeatedly, okay? What we need to do is to bring in such investors, and you put in certain tolls on certain roads, and you dedicate the funds being earmarked from our tax on fuel and put it towards that loan. Because right now, what happens? You have the tax on fuel really should be going to the infrastructure. But all governments take those monies and use for other things. That's not the right way to do it. Because when you're running a business, if you're running a business, for instance, you're selling cement, lumber, whatever you're selling, and one commodity is not making any money, you downsize that economy and stick to those. You cannot take one thing to finance the other. And that is the problem that we have. We have to understand that if we can get away from those high costs of borrowing all these monies to put roads, you'll be able to address your social issues better. When one goes to a hospital today and you can't get a simple thing like a Panadol or whatever the doctor prescribed because they don't have the funds to put into it, that's wrong. You have all the crime taking place today. People are getting despondent. You have suicides taking place. That all manifests itself as a result of mismanagement. You have everybody, the same way a home has to live within their means. Governments must live within their means. You cannot be borrowing money ad infinitum. We have to spend right now, based on my last, some $12 to $14 million a month in loans. How can a poor island like St. Lucia survive? Some time ago, I had the general manager of the Bank of St. Lucia on one of my shows, and I posed a question to him. How can you see these islands ever paying off the loan? And he said, never. Those loans will have to be forgiven. But if and when these loans are ever forgiven, nobody's going to forgive a loan unless you tell them how you're going to run your business so you don't get back in that mess again. And this is what we need to do because we are going the wrong direction. Now, you take, for instance, I go back to the question of borrowings, okay? Buildings, bridges. I have said repeatedly and repeatedly, you cannot afford those expensive bridges that we're putting up. $10 and $11 million. When the Prime Minister, by his own admission, admitted that he got 6 Bailey bridges. This is something I have been advocating for years. Because my brother put down a Bailey bridge 60 years ago in Canaries. And it remained there, and were it not for the fact that the river was choked, it would have still been there, okay? And what did he do? He put on the bridge in less than 30 days at the cost of 700,000 EC dollars. You have time on your side and you have savings. You take the Bois d'Orange Bridge, 2 Bailey bridges side by side, nothing wrong with that. 10, 12 years time, when things get better, you can always address that situation. Buildings. People talk about rentals, that government have no right to rent. What I want St. Lucians to know please do your own homework. Don't repeat what people tell you. Putting up a building has a cost. When government puts up a building, it doesn't get it for free, or they should not be renting. Let me tell you something. When you put up a building, government is not immune to paying interest on loans. They don't have the money. So they have to pay interest like everybody else. Whether they get it from NIS or anywhere else, they have to pay interest on the money. That's number one. Number two, they have to go and maintain the building. There's insurance costs. Governments don't insure buildings generally. So when a building gets burnt there, who loses the money? The government. But the cost of insurance has to be factored in. You have maintenance. Why do you think that so many government buildings today are always having difficulty, they tell you, molding, little fires, leaking? Because there's no proper people doing the maintenance on those buildings. Because governments are not geared for that. Government is there to create an environment for business people, because every business that is owned by individuals, government is entitled to 30% income tax, property tax, all kind of taxes, okay? That's where government should be getting their revenue from and concentrating on the things they have to do, like social services. Take, for instance, when Dr. King was on the air recently, what did he say? He said very clearly that they told him that the government, the doctor should provide a level of financing to the patients, okay? And he made it very clear. There's only so much he can do. If he's running a business and it's costing him $1.5 million a year, and he spends $2 million, he's going to go under. There's nobody to give it to him. So these are the areas the government needs to work closer with the private sector to do all those things. I mean, take for instance, the Blue Coral building. The Blue Coral building, I understand, loses $130,000 a month. Now, where is that money to come from? Where is it to come from? And it was a bad decision, in one sense, for the government to get. It's a good decision to have done the Blue Coral building, but government should not have got involved in that, okay? Today, government would be happy to sell the Blue Coral building for half what it costs them. That's a loss again. And these are the things that bleed the little bit of revenue that the islands are working so hard to achieve. Okay, now you have a problem also with wages. Okay, you have civil servants now who feel that they should not be taking a 5% cut, and they have said to the Prime Minister time and time again what should be done. Okay, you have parts of government, as I said earlier on, if you have a business that's not performing, you have to cut it off. You know, you have embassies away costing so how many $1 million a year. You have to ask the question, in the last 15 to 20 years, what have they done to assist the island? And you have to scale back. I'm not saying that it should be stopped, but there are intelligent St. Lucians living in New York, London, Washington, Montreal. You take a St. Lucian, and I'm happy. Your Labour Party's in power, you want to take a Labour candidate, that's fine by me. I don't have a problem with that. But take one of those individuals who have a home, okay? You make him an honorary consul, and you pay him a stipend. He'll be very happy to do it. Then you don't have to rent homes for St. Lucians to go up. You don't have to pay airfares going up and down, because you take people here, honorary consuls from bigger countries that don't even get a salary, okay? So why? You have a rich country like America, it's put an embassy in Barbados, and you have everybody having to fly to Barbados. You don't see a U.S. embassy everywhere. I have gone to the embassy and several times and made appeals to the U.S. embassy, telling them very clearly, gentlemen, these are poor people. It costs $1,200 for somebody to fly to be told no. Why don't you let them fill up their application online, and we can send the passports up by FedEx. You can check it out, and then you come down and you give the people here. Not even that they're prepared to do. Look at the British Embassy. Have now scaled down in St. Lucia, right? And you have to go to Jamaica now for an interview. Everybody is cutting back. and we are continuing to live as though nothing is going wrong. And the island is continuing to go down. So we have to say enough is enough, and what the Prime Minister has to do. I know that he has gone on and explained, and he's tried. He's put many, what's the word should I, councils in place. He has the productive council, he has the visionary council. But you know, these are all well and good, these are good people. But these councils, they have no teeth. What the PM has to do now, the PM has to get 4 or 5 of his good trusted people in the business sector, what the English word called a kitchen cabinet, that he's willing to listen to, okay? And because no man is an island. The Prime Minister alone cannot run a country, because the Prime Minister is a lawyer. You need a business person to run a country, okay? And who can highlight certain things, but people that he can trust, I mean, not only politically, but with proper decision making, and take it from there, because that's the only way forward, or else we'll be falling behind the 8th ball, as they say in life.